from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, the Senate version of the Farm Bill easily passes out of committee. We'll break down some of the key elements. The House comes up with a deal on immigration reform, but who will support it in agribusiness?
You know, in the effort of saving, one thing you have to really realize is there is execution risk.
Our reporting partners over at Drovers look at new labeling laws and a break for livestock haulers, plus no shortage on help in this Michigan family.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The Senate Ag Committee meeting and approving its version of the 2018 Farm Bill Wednesday. Leaders must now see if they can secure the 60 votes needed for passage. All senators in the Ag Committee voting in favor of the draft, except for Iowa Senator and farmer Charles Grassley. Grassley frustrated during the hearing on several fronts, including biofuels and language around industrial hemp. Betsy Gibbon joins us now with more.
Seeing a quorum, I call this meeting of the Senate Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee to order.
Members of the Senate Ag Committee conveying a message of unity during markup.
You and I made a commitment to deliver a bipartisan farm bill that would work for our farmers, our families, and our rural communities.
This is a good bill with common sense proposal.
Holding true with a 20-1 vote. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley, the lone holdout.
It doesn't do enough to put a hard cap on the amount of money that one farmer can get from the farm program, and it doesn't include the usual approach that I have got through the Senate in past years.
The bill, described as evolutionary and not revolutionary, makes several pointed changes to ag provisions, from a new dairy safety net.
In New York State today, our dairy farmers are not only living on poverty wages at this point, but many of them are going out of business and they're committing suicide.
To crop insurance.
It protects crop insurance, helps fight the opioid epidemic, promotes voluntary conservation, develops new market opportunities.
The Senate version calls for more CRP acres and includes language on industrial hemp.
Hemp is very diversified. I mean, it could end up in your car dashboard. It could end up in food. It could end up in certain kinds of pharmaceuticals. It's time to figure it out and see where the market will take us.
With support from some senators.
North Dakota in the 1990s passed a hemp bill allowing for the growth of hemp in our state. We've been waiting for this for almost 20 years.
But not by all.
Why I think it ought to be approved by the FDA, because they have responsibility for safety and for efficacy of the product. And I think people that purchase it ought to not worry about buying something from a snake oil salesman. I'm for industrial hemp. When you think of industrial hemp being used for clothing, paper, for ethanol, for rope and things like that.
One thing not included, work requirements for SNAP recipients, and that's even getting support from House Democrats frustrated by their own progress.
We had 23 hearings on food stamps. What we heard in those hearings were there needed to be changes. Are any of those changes in this bill? No. What's in the bill, were they brought up in those hearings? No. That's the problem. And if they would get real and start talking about what's really going on here and what needs to happen, then I can come back to the table. And I'd come back to the table even before that if they would talk to me. But they haven't talked to me for 6 weeks.
It's a process the Ag Committee hopes will continue through the Senate and potentially into legislation by or before the 4th of July. SNAP provisions are still a big debate in the House version of the Farm Bill, but senators like Joni Ernst saying she would like SNAP to do even more in the Farm Bill for recipients to work their way out of poverty and become self-sufficient.
Thanks, Betsy. The House is also working to get a farm bill back on track after some GOP members withheld their votes in order to push for immigration reform. Tuesday, House leaders making a deal on immigration legislation. Washington correspondent Jim Wiesmeyer reporting that House Republicans will hold votes as soon as next week. Spokesperson for Paul Ryan saying the House will vote on two competing immigration bills. One, Virginia Representative Bob Goodlatte's bill, includes changes to the H-2A guest worker program. The other, considered more of a compromise bill.
What happened was our members got together, spoke with one another, and compromised with each other so that we could find a way forward without exercising a discharge petition, which would mean we would never make law. And so now what we have is an actual chance at making law in solving this problem.
Wiesmeyer says immigration votes are a trade for another shot at passing a House Farm Bill. While both chambers work on getting new Farm Bill passed, the latest numbers are out on enrollments for the government's nutrition assistance programs that make up roughly 80% of that Farm Bill. USDA says enrollments fell to 40 million people in March. That's the lowest level in 8 years. Numbers have been in steady decline since 2013. Out in California, voters of the Golden State will get a chance to vote on breaking that state into 3 new states. Approved for a statewide vote in November, the measure creates a Northern California, a Southern California state, and a state made up of counties along the coast. Now, if approved, it then has to be approved by California's legislature and then Congress in Washington. West Virginia was the last state to be created through division back in 1863. Now, on the ag front, the measure has far-reaching ramifications given the state's water infrastructure. Mike Hoffman's taking us into farm country, and he has today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Here's a place we need to travel to more often, Western Nevada. Mike Compston says the grass hay is looking good in that western part of Nevada, despite the drought lingering in the state. Mike says the area is hot, with temperatures in the 90s. The U.S. Drought Monitor shows 84% of the state is considered at least abnormally dry. A new monitor will be released tomorrow. And Mike Wilson in Allendale, Illinois, hopes corn will be tasseling by this weekend if all goes well. However, he says there's a chance for heavy rains this weekend. He's keeping his fingers crossed that he'll miss it this time around. And taking a look at the wind speed forecast, you can see the eastern Great Lakes, parts of New England, and the north central plains a little bit windy as we start the day. There will be some windy spots in the northern and central plains and out west as we head through the afternoon. Heading into the day tomorrow then, we'll start off on the breezy side in the central and southern plains. And as we head through the day, it'll get a little windier as it typically does. Central plains and especially much of the west, especially Nevada, Southern California. We'll talk more about your forecast coming up in a few minutes, but first here are some hometown temps.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Paying less per trade can help the bottom line, but don't forget there's always risk. We'll talk about it next at the Agribusiness Desk. And later, an extra hand or two can sure make the workload lighter. We'll meet a Michigan family counting their blessings, 1 to 14. Here at the Agribusiness Desk this morning, we have Brian Splitt with Allendale Incorporated. Brian, as we talk about trading here a lot, and we talk about, most of the time, we're talking about markets and fundamentals and what's happening to drive those markets. But there's a flip side of that, and that's the actual action required to make trades and to be involved in those markets. Recently, we've seen some discussion around a company in the industry that's offering some brokerage discounts. And walk us through what's good and what might be troublesome about that.
Well, right. So the company is offering some very steeply discounted rates, and I think it's about $1.50 a side, which typically for full service brokerage, you're talking $50 round turn, $70, even $100 round turn, depending on the firm. And so what's good about that? Well, I think if you are very well in tuned with order entry, the tools that you're using, how futures work, how options work, then that could be a very good way for you to save cost. But in the effort of saving, one thing you have to really realize is there is execution risk. So every broker has what's called an error account. So if you're to call me up and say, hey Brian, let's sell December corn at this price, and I'm putting my order in and I hit buy instead of sell by accident. Well, now that's an error, and now I have to get out of that error. Do I realize I made that error immediately? Do I realize that the next day? What did the market do in between? So trying to save that, $45, may end up costing you several $100s, because if you're entering your own orders on your own account, that is your error account. You don't have somebody else to blame. Right. So I think that's something you have to understand, is execution risk is real, and that's why brokers do get paid to enter the orders for individuals.
Yeah. Is it interesting to be to see this kind of, I don't know, commoditization of your side of the industry be happening?
I think it's a natural evolution of things. You know, people are always looking for a better way to do things and a cheaper way to do things, and you know, cost savings right now is very big. When you're looking at the totality of a cost of production, you know, brokerage fees do have to be put into that category, and you have to, you know, think about, is that one of the categories that you want to try and save money on? Mm-hmm. And again, I would stress that if you are very well versed in how the market works, you have a nice cool hand when you're entering orders, but the last thing you want to do is fat finger an order, especially if, you know, you're thinking, hey, I want to make a move on 5,000 bushels here, and instead you make a move on 50,000 bushels, or you hit the buy order instead of the sell order. You know, so there's a lot of things that can happen when you're putting an order in that can get you turned around. And I actually had a client that, you know, we do offer some discounted rates if you want to enter your own orders. Woke up one morning and there was several fills that happened about midnight, and the client got turned around entering his own orders and bought 5 and then sold 5, and you know, I think he was trying to figure out where he was and get to where he wanted to be, and that cost him money.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's something to watch. It's a new trend in the industry. We'll keep an eye on it. Thank you. We'll be back with more AgDay in just a minute.
To talk to Brian Splitt one-on-one, call Allendale Incorporated at 800-551-4626 or email him at bsplit@allendale-inc.com.
Welcome back to AgDay. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman here looking at the root zone moisture map. And Mike, you can see where the storms have gone and where they have not gone.
Yeah, that trail of complexes of thunderstorms, southern Minnesota into parts of the Northeast, you can pick that out through the southern Great Lakes. But like you said, Clinton, you can also pick out the areas where they haven't been occurring very much. And that area is like Missouri and some of the surrounding states there. You can see it's very dry. It's getting drier across parts of Utah, Colorado, but it's actually improved in parts of Arizona and New Mexico where those monsoon afternoon thunderstorms have been occurring. You can also see some drier conditions in the Northeast. Now, the root zone moisture is directly from a NASA satellite, so this gives us up-to-date information, and it keeps changing weekly. It's amazing how quickly it changes just because of some big thunderstorms in one area or the lack thereof. High pressure sitting right over the Chicago, Milwaukee area, giving gorgeous weather today to much of the Great Lakes. Eastern area is still seeing a few showers with that low pressure system up there. And you can see another system coming out of Montana moving off to the northeast. But with this warm front, there will be a few complexes of storms, and our model is actually showing one heading through those very dry areas, southern Iowa into Missouri, as we head through the afternoon hours tomorrow. That would be really nice. That will form overnight tonight, by the way. High pressure is still sitting over the Gulf of Mexico. As you can see, the afternoon showers and thunderstorms continue to occasionally occur in some places, is what I mean by that. In the desert southwest, you can see as we head through the afternoon hours tomorrow, that same idea in the southeast, a little bit along that warm front western Great Lakes. And this is the remnants of Bud. Okay, this thing may feed into the southwest and actually give a better chance for moisture as we head into the weekend. So that could be some good news for some of those dry areas. There's a precipitation estimate past 24 hours, adding in the next 36. You can see a lot of it is in the Mississippi Valley eastward, especially along the Gulf Coast, southern Florida getting a fair amount. Boy, that's just hit and miss, mostly light farther west. It is hot from the desert southwest, north central plains into the southern plains, still on the pleasant side, northeast and northwest, and that'll continue tonight. Very muggy through the plain states, and that heat continues. Some 90s showing up there all the way up into the Omaha area, as you can see. The jet stream then, that ridge is only going to build into the Great Lakes in the northeast as we head into this Father's Day weekend. But watch what happens. Trough develops east, ridge develops west as we head into the middle of next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Vaughn, New Mexico, first of all, partly sunny, warm and breezy, high of 87 degrees. La Crosse, Wisconsin, a mixture of clouds and sunshine, high of 80. And finally, Lynchburg, Virginia, warm and humid with sunshine most of the time, high 87.
Up next, how did a pest that can be troublesome for cattle travel 1,200 miles and just suddenly show up? Plus, imagine a household with more than a dozen kids. What's life like there?
Is now the best time to sell your old equipment? Pete's Pick of the Week keeps you up to date on current market prices, making it easy for you to know when to sell your equipment for the best possible price. Text Pete6 to 31313 to get started.
Ranchers in Arkansas and surrounding states need to be on the lookout after an invasive species of tick known to be aggressive biters of livestock was discovered in the northwest corner of the state. The Arkansas Department of Ag says researchers have confirmed it was a longhorn tick. What makes this discovery so strange is that the bug had only been previously reported in New Jersey and Virginia. The species is native to Asia. No one is sure how it arrived in the U.S. or how it got to the middle of the country. Like other ticks, these can transmit diseases on humans and livestock. The Arkansas Cattlemen's Association is telling producers to monitor their herds a little closer. Symptoms include droopy ears, increased body temperature, and a lack of appetite. Also from drovers, livestock haulers could get further relief from the hours of service and electronic logging device regulations if a newly proposed bipartisan bill makes its way through the Senate. Senators John Hoeven of North Dakota and Michael Bennett of Colorado introducing the Modernizing Agriculture Transportation Act on Tuesday. It would reform the ELD and hours of service law. A working group made up of USDA, DOT, and Ag would help identify complications in the current regulations that impede safe, humane, and market-efficient transport of livestock. Now, the working group would have a year to develop guidelines for regulatory or legislative action. And there's another attempt to clear up what information you read on food labels. In this Drovers TV report, Greg Henderson explains the Accurate Labels Act.
The Accurate Labels Act would amend the Fair Packaging and Labeling Act to ensure consumers continue to benefit from the nutritional and allergy information on packaging today, and to prevent inaccurate labels that mislead consumers and drive up prices.
Bill co-author Senator Jerry Moran says the proposal would establish science-based criteria for all additional state and local labeling requirements. It also would allow the info to be accessed via a smart label on your smartphone. Bill also clarifies that trace amounts of substances do not have to be listed as ingredients. Up next, we'll visit a Michigan family where it's nearly impossible to find quiet time in the house.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
When you run a farm or ranch, it's nice to have a few extra hands around to help with chores. And back before mechanization, it was a necessity to have a large family on the farm. But those days are long gone. But in Michigan, there's a couple that can quickly fill up a bus with all of their kids, 14 of them, and all boys. Mike Householder reports.
Brandon Schwant had his own cheering section at a hockey showcase near Detroit. His dad and 3 brothers followed the 19-year-old's every move as Schwant put his skills on display for scouts. The support was nice, but it could have been a lot more substantial. After all, Schwant has 10 more brothers and no sisters.
You would think that with 14 tries, one of them by chance would have been a girl. I just don't think it was meant to be, and it's neat though. I mean, there are a lot of large families out there. The fact that we have 14 boys is what makes it so unique.
25-year-old Tyler is the oldest of Jay and Kateri Schwant's big boy brood, while the youngest has only been around for a couple of months.
The newest addition is Finley Sheboygan.
Unfortunately, the Schwants are the target of online posts that harp on more than just naming decisions.
There are some really mean people in the world, and it doesn't matter. You know, we happen to be this great big family with 14 boys that has so much fun every second that we're together, and we still get horrible comments.
Some of those comments focus on whether the Schwants are capable of giving each boy enough attention, a life their mom describes as organized chaos, especially when all 16 are in one place, as they recently were during a getaway at the family farm a half hour from their Grand Rapids area home.
Crazy, chaotic, noisy, messy, but we enjoy it, you know, and if we didn't, we wouldn't have continued to have this many children.
Their kids are just getting started though. Drew Schwant and his girlfriend are expecting their first any day now. The baby's gender?
It's going to be a little girl, so that's so exciting to have, you know, a baby girl around.
Drew's little girl will have 13 uncles, including Finley, proving that families come in all shapes and sizes. Mike Householder, The Associated Press, Lakeview, Michigan.
I bet they never get lonesome. Now, my mother-in-law was one of 15 children, 11 of them were boys. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.